Hey guys, I am Michelle Champ. I wanted to get on here because I had a lot of questions after I posted about having a virtual assistant. And I remember going through that process and feeling like, where do I start? How do I get one? What do I ask for? And all this kind of stuff. So I thought I would just kind of give a rundown of how I got to the place of figuring out that I needed a virtual assistant, and then kind of the process I went through in hopes that maybe it helps some other people. And so take what you want out of this. Hopefully it can help a little bit. So just a little bit of background on me. So this is important because this is how I decided I needed a virtual assistant, but I got one way too late. I sold my house in Tampa 3.5 years ago now, and took my two kids, who were 1 and 3 at the time, and my husband. And one thing led to another, and we started traveling around the world. And I remember specifically saying, I'm not really sure if I'm going to try to do Beautycounter as we travel, but we're taking like 3 or 4 months to travel, and we'll see how it goes. And so I've kind of learned how to like do this business on the road, but it's taken some time and some trial and error. And, that 3 or 4 months has continued on to 3.5 years of traveling around the world with my kids, who are now 6 and 4. So that's kind of that, paired with 1 month last year, we took a 30-day cruise, and I thought I was going to have some like decent internet that I could get like an hour of work done here or there, and we had like no internet. I mean, like, to download a Voxer message took me about like sometimes 20 minutes. Sometimes if it was a good day, it'd be like 5 minutes to download one Voxer message. And for those of you watching, you probably know that you probably have sometimes like 50 Voxer messages. And so you can imagine, like, I couldn't get to like my emails, respond to clients very well. And I was just like, why didn't I get a virtual assistant? Why didn't I get somebody in place to make my business run more like a business? And it's funny because this past weekend, Bob Heilig posted a quote that I thought was really resonated with me. And it said, if your network marketing business, although we have direct retail, doesn't run without you, you don't have a real business, you have a job. And I think that's really key. I'm really about like processes and trying to find ways to work smarter, not harder. And I'm a big fan of Tim Ferriss, and The 4-Hour Workweek was one of the books I read long time ago that really resonated with me. And I've always tried to figure out ways to, when I'm starting things, to then figure out ways to leave it with somebody else, kind of to make some processes around it so that I can step away a little bit easier. And not that I've gotten there in my business at all, but that's my kind of mindset, and the reason that those kind of things paired together, and I realized I need a virtual assistant. So as soon as I got back from that cruise, I started reaching out and trying to figure out how to get a virtual assistant. And I didn't really get very far. I was just like, I had no idea what to do, where to turn to, how you get one, what do you even ask them to do. I reached out to a couple people at Beautycounter and didn't really hear back. And so, but you know what, that was maybe a good thing, because it allowed me to kind of figure out my own process and my path. So while I'm going to share a lot of information, I'm also going to hold back some information, because I think the process of actually doing it is one of the most important and will actually help your business more than just somebody handing you, here is where to find the virtual assistant, here are the questions to ask, here's the exact tasks to have them do. I don't think that's actually helpful. I think you have to kind of go through some of that process yourself. Okay. I also want to say that, so I wrote down some notes because otherwise I'll go off tangent, but one of the things that I wrote down is that know that it's going to take some time to find one, and allow yourself that time. So don't think that you're going to have one by tomorrow if you start looking today. Allow yourself, like I allowed myself a solid month of searching and figuring it out, and it probably took more like a month and a half before I finally kind of even got somebody up and starting, or about a full month at least. And then from there, it's still a process, right? Like, she didn't just all of a sudden take on all these tasks and all this was like let go off of my plate. It's a process of turning it over and training somebody and making processes so that it's easy for her to take over. And hopefully her or him or whoever your virtual assistant is has some knowledge of some processes that they can keep you organized and keep you on track, which I think is really important. But it's a little bit of a learning curve, but to me, it's well worth it. One of the things that I did is I started to write down, and this is one of those things that I'm not going to just hand over and give to you, because I think this is really important. Sorry, I have really squeaky chairs. I'm in Mexico right now. Really squeaky chairs. Is to write down what you don't like to do. Write down what you are not good at, and write down what you think is a time saver. And by that, I mean, like, what would, like, if somebody took that off your plate, would it open up more time for you to do other things that are more business building activities that bring in better ROI? And that goes the same for even just like, you know, if it takes you 10 hours to clean your house during the week, and you get somebody to come in and do it for 2 hours at, you know, $50 an hour, you know, is that worth your time? To me, that's like a no-brainer, because it would take me a lot longer to clean my house and I don't like to, and I don't even have a house right now. But it would take me a lot longer to clean my, my house at those 10 hours than it would for me to pay somebody $100. I can be doing a lot more with those 10 hours to make a lot more than $100. So that's kind of how I think about some of this stuff as well. And then I think I said this, but if I didn't, write down also what will help you get ROI. So like, well, I think there's kind of two categories, like what will help, what don't I like to do that, like, if I just give somebody, that's just like as a stress reliever for me, because I don't have to do it anymore and I don't even really like doing it. And they can do it faster and better. And then separately, what are the activities that I can actually have them do that will help me bring in more ROI? Or is it at first I just have them do these things that I don't really like, that take me a lot of time, therefore I can bring in more ROI? So I am kind of thinking like that when I'm looking for a virtual assistant. And then make an application. So I used Google Forms. Please don't ask me for mine. I'm not going to share it. I don't even know where it is, actually. That's why I'm not going to share it. But also because I think this is important to go through the process again. You know, I didn't have one going into this, and not that I think that you need to reinvent the wheel, but I think like going through the process helped me figure out what I actually needed and what I wanted. Which is going to be different from everybody. So I used, like I said, Google Forms, and actually I asked my virtual assistant for some information that I could share with you guys. But she also said that like when I put that post up, that was really, really helpful, because a lot of times people will just like put a post up saying like what they're kind of looking for, and it's really hard to figure out if you're a good fit or not as a virtual assistant. But I put a post up with all these questions, and then I had like, if I can remember right, and I kind of forget, but I think I had like, are you good at video editing? Tell me some of the skills that you have, the video editors that you're good at using, etc. And then I had them like have a paragraph to write down, and then on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself, like being like a pro or not knowledgeable at all? And that really helped, because even though people said like, yeah, I have video editing skills, here are my video editing skills, when they rated themselves, they'd rate themselves like a 5. And so I thought that was really interesting. So that might be like a tip for you to do. And honestly, so it's interesting because a lot of the questions that I had, I don't actually use my virtual assistant for. It also helped me figure out like what was really important to me. So that process is really helpful to kind of figure out an application and what is important to you. And then when you start to get response, what is truly important to you? Like, what would it be better to have somebody that's really, really good at keeping you organized and helping you with your newsletters, or somebody that's, you know, you're really into making videos or something like that, and they can really help you there. Okay. And then put it out there. So put that application or the information that you're looking for a virtual assistant out there. I thought about posting it on like my personal Facebook page, or I have an Instagram account for our travels called RetiredToddlers. So I thought about posting it on RetiredToddlers, Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or something like that as well, thinking like I could get a lot of different people. But I decided to first try to post in this. I started looking up like Facebook groups for virtual assistants, and I found one, and I forget what it was called, but I found one, and I asked my virtual assistant for a bunch of them, so I forget which one of these was the one I posted in. But I joined it, and then I posted for the application in there, thinking I'll start there and then I can move to like some other realms. So I want to. What I kind of didn't want to do is put it out to my friends and family and have friends and family apply and then I'd not use them, or it didn't work out and I wasn't really sure what I was doing. So I didn't want to like cross that bridge, if that makes sense. Okay. So some of the Facebook groups that my VA told me about this one is called VA Savvies. Sorry, I'm looking at my computer. VA Savvies, SAVVIES. Another one is called Virtual Assistant Jobs. This is just facebook.com/groups/VA Savvies /virtual assistant jobs. This one just has a number, I don't know. This one is Business Savvy Val. SAVVY Val. So those are a couple of them that you can look for. This one is called Virtual Assistant Tribe Job Board. So you can look for that one as well. So those are a couple of them that you might just want to like look through and see. I had a lot of, I had lots of different types of people apply, maybe like 30 or so in a matter of like a week. And some of them were overseas, obviously charging a lot less. And some of them had all different types of skill sets. And I left it open as far as I just asked what do you charge, basically. And so I didn't put a price on what I was going to pay because I wasn't really sure what I was going to pay, because I had heard things all across the board of what you should pay. And so, okay, sorry. This one is called Business Savvy Virtual Assistants. I think that's the one I was saying that is the VAL one at the end. VA. Oh, it's Business Savvy VA. That L, it looked like an L, but it's actually a /. So Business Savvy, SAVVY Virtual Assistants is another one. Okay. So back to what I pay. So, I got things from like $5 an hour to $50 an hour. I honestly didn't really care how much I was going to pay somebody if they could bring me a lot of value, if I could see the value in it. And I think that goes back to, even what we sell. If you show value in the products, then obviously it doesn't really matter how much it cost. So what I ended up paying is I pay her $30 an hour for a minimum of 10 hours a month. And that's where we started. So at $30 an hour, 10 hours a month, and now she does more hours a month for me. And she'll kind of keep building from there as I will be traveling more early next year, a lot more earlier next year. And I need her to basically take over a lot of stuff. So that's what I paid based on what she said she can do and what her rate was. And I felt really good about that. And I still feel really good about that. She brings me a lot of value, keeps me organized, all that kind of good stuff. But what I also wrote on here is take the time to go through each person that applies to you, each person that says that they're interested. I all of a sudden I had all these like applications and I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And I remember I went through and just took out a piece of paper and started writing down, what aspects of different people I thought were really, it started to open my mind of like, oh, this person said they could do this. I never thought about this. Or this person said, this is probably a better way to not to use this program, but this program. That's interesting. And so that is the part of the process that I think is really important that you go through. And that to me, then I started to narrow down what I really actually truly wanted and some other questions I had for the people that I narrowed down that I wanted to interview. So out of those applications, I had several good ones. I'd say like a handful of ones I thought were really good potentials, but I only had 2 that I felt like I really wanted to actually take the time and do a phone interview for. And at that point I was like I was in Laos or something like that. I think I was in Laos. So I was on a whole different time zone. So I didn't even want to bother like trying to interview everybody on the phone. I didn't have time for that. I just wanted to like really take my time, go through everything and make sure that I had all my ducks in a row kind of per se. And then I narrowed it down to these 2 people. And the first one I interviewed is actually, she's the one that is my virtual assistant. And I was really impressed with her. I asked her a lot of questions and I don't hold back either. So I think one of the things that sometimes can happen, and I felt this at some points, is that you don't want to make them feel bad about knowing how to do something or whatnot. I don't know. Maybe you don't feel that way, but sometimes I think that when you're interviewing somebody, you don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. But I think, you're paying them, you're hiring them for your business. And so don't be afraid to ask the tough questions and have them prove themselves. And one of the things the reasons I hired the virtual assistant that I did is because she, when I was asking all sorts of questions, she also brought up a lot of really good questions and asked me if I would want it done this way, or if I think this way is better. And I was like, wow, this is what I want. Somebody to bring up new ideas to me, somebody that's going to make other suggestions and help in areas that I either don't want to do or that I'm not as great at. And so she, even things that she wasn't sure of, she had emailed me after our call and wrote out examples after she did all this research and showed me examples of things that she thinks would be applicable to me. At that time, I thought I wanted a CRM. And so she showed me the pros and cons of some of them. Now I've decided not to, because I'm really holding out, hoping that Beautycounter will get with it and provide us with one of these days. So I use Google Excel for everything. So that's that. And then I also took everybody else and I BCC'd them, all the other people that applied. I BCC'd them and thanked them for their time and let them know. And actually I got quite a few emails back saying, thank you so much for letting us know. So many of these times we fill out these things and nobody even gets back to us or responds or anything. So I think taking that time to just, everybody that took the time to apply, to just thank them, even if you aren't going to interview them, is really helpful. I did a couple phone interviews before I actually hired the virtual assistant I used. So like I said, I was kind of torn between two of them. And so I went back and asked more and more questions. And as you have these conversations, more and more things come up. And that's, again, part of the process that I think is really, really important, is just, go through all these steps so that you start to narrow down what you really want and your focus should be and what's worth it to you. The other thing I have written down is that you should have realistic expectations that, if you're not paying somebody $200 an hour for their absolute professional expertise, that they hit a button and your business goes, whoa, have realistic expectations for what you're paying. If you're paying $5 an hour, have realistic expectations that you're probably going to have to put more time in to train that person. I think $30 an hour is a really nice rate for a virtual assistant. So I had expectations that she can get things done, but I also did not have expectations that she's the expert in everything, And so, have some expectations. Some of it is trial and error. How I look at things a lot of times is, okay, let's try this. Let's try this process. Let's see if we can get this up and running or this working. And then if we have to nix it, I'm okay with that. So, and I always kind of open it up as this is how I foresee it going, but I would really love your feedback, and I'd love if you think there's a newer way or a better way, or, So I try to encourage feedback and for her to have her voice in what we're doing. And some things I hand off to her and I say, this is your baby, and I want you to run with it and see what you can do with it. Cause I haven't done anything with it, so it can't go bad, it can't go wrong, because I haven't had success with it in the past. So just do what you can with it. And so with her, I have a one-time, she's on Voxer. So we can chat back and forth really easily there. I also have a one-time a month call with her where we actually call and go through what we want to do for that month, what her main tasks are. And then obviously I can box her with other things here and there. She keeps track of everything in some system she uses, which she shares with me, which I sometimes look at, but really I just care that things get done and that it seems like it's in a good, timely manner. And she's very diligent. She tracks everything to the minute. So, so you have somebody that's really intentionally working on stuff and charging you down to the minute. And I think that's really important, because, so many times I'm working Beautycounter, but I'm also eating lunch and I'm going up and going to the bathroom and cooking something, or, doing something else. So, having somebody dedicated that's charging you, not just kind of doing what you might be doing for an hour, but really diligently working, is actually really worth it. Okay. Oh, some of the tasks that I have my virtual assistant do. Again, I don't have these written down somewhere that I can share easily, nor am I going to put that list together, because they change often, and because I think this is part of the process of you figuring out what's worth it to you, and changing, knowing that you can nix things or scratch things and try other things. And again, I just always have in mind, is this something that is going to get me an ROI, or is this something that's taking something off my plate that I don't want to be doing, or that then I can go out and make more of that ROI, right? That I can start building the business and bringing in income. So I always kind of think of things in like those two buckets when I'm giving tasks out. So one of the things that she helped me do is at that point last year, I was like really, at first I was doing a newsletter pretty well. And then I was like really haphazard about it. I was like doing one, you know, once every couple weeks when I had some internet or something, and it was taking me forever to put together, mostly because I always have slow internet wherever we travel. And I just was like, sometimes it would go out on a Wednesday, sometimes it would be a Sunday morning, and it was kind of like all over the place. So I asked her to just kind of get me organized there and start taking control of my weekly newsletter. So now it goes out every Sunday. She's in charge. She puts it together for me. She asks me for like a topic for the week, and it just keeps me accountable. So by Wednesday of every week, if I don't have a topic to her, she gets after me and says, what's the topic for the newsletter this week? And then if I'm like, I don't know, I haven't thought of something, I'll ask her for ideas. And then she'll put it all together, and I will go in and add my voice. Like I will go in and edit it a little bit, but it takes me like 15 to 30 minutes max, as opposed to like the 4 hours it was taking me to do those newsletters. So to me, that's a huge help. And it's one of those things that I was kind of dreading doing for a lot of reasons, namely because my internet is so wacky when we travel, that getting things uploaded and images, and it was just wreck. Okay. She also helped me with, I was kind of revamping my website. I'd kind of thrown up a website like years ago and didn't really do much with it, and kind of throw up a blog post every once in a while, but I was quite haphazard. So she's kind of revamped that for me to make it a little bit more all inclusive of our travels with Retired Toddlers, plus my Beautycounter, plus like me. And so she's helped me a bit with that. She is helping with some blog posts, just kind of getting on a better schedule there, and especially with like travel blog posts that I've never really done, and I've always wanted to, and I get a million questions about certain experiences, and I just need everything kind of consolidated. And for my own documentation for our family, I think that's the whole reason we started doing Retired Toddlers in the first place, is to just document our family travels. So she helps me with that. She helps me with like designing things and printing it. So like I wanted, you know, if I want something designed and printed for like maybe something I'm sending out with samples or something like that, I'll say, this is what I'm thinking, can you design it? She'll design it on like Canva, send me it to like edit, and I'll say it's good to go, and she'll get it printed for me and sent to wherever I need it sent to or whatnot. She has taken over. I have my own coaching page for my team, and I do my own shout outs for them every month. And it was becoming kind of like, oh my gosh, I got to get to that the first of the month and blah, blah, blah. I don't know where I am in the world. Again, always my problem. And I said, can you just take this over? Here's what I do. And she does. So she takes over posting that, doing that, and it's just basically going into I give her access to behind the counter. I give her access to a lot of my stuff. We've built like a very trustworthy relationship. And she goes in and takes like the top in PV and NV and all that kind of good stuff, and does those shout outs for me. And then I just sent her a bunch of samples and envelopes and all that kind of good stuff to send out, sample packs. And so she's now going to be doing that for me, because that was really hard for me to do, obviously, because I'm not in the US very often. And I was having my mom do it kind of every once in a while, but I thought I could do more of a sample push if she was able to take that role over for me. So she's now doing that. And she also helps me with some travel stuff. So those are some of the tasks that she helps me with. So I hope that helps. I don't want this video to get so crazy long, but I hope those are some kind of ideas. I certainly don't have all the answers. Really, I did not know what I was doing when I went into this. That's why I constantly am pushing that this process of going through it is so super important, and going through it yourself, and not just asking somebody to like, where do I find a virtual assistant, and thinking that like, here's the task list, here's how I get a virtual assistant, and it's just gonna like boom happen. Because I think giving yourself like a month to get one and go through that process helps in a lot of ways. It also helps you like really focus on what you want to really be doing with your business, and where you want to be taking maybe like your brand or what other things you have going on, and kind of consolidating and helping you have like some intention and some vision with some things. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, maybe just put them in the comment section instead of reaching out individually. So because I'm sure a lot of other people have questions, then I can just answer them once if I have the answer. But if anybody else has ways that they've reached out or found virtual assistant, like I said, I don't have all the answers. My way is not necessarily the right way or the best way, but this is just the way I went through it. And so if anybody else has other ideas or examples or helpful tips, please feel free to share as well. All right, have a good day.